Hi, I'm Joshua Finn with J&H Aerospace. Today we are going to build the Fliplock. So, let's set that aside and we're going to pop open the kit here and we'll get started. Alright, so inside your baggie here we have patterns for everything. Oh, extra sheet in this one. You won't get that in yours. So here are all your patterns for various parts. Got some more in here. Right there. But most importantly, let's take inventory of everything. So we have our fuselage, 1/8 inch hard balsa. We have 2 wing panels. We'll have our tail surfaces here and our dihedral gauge. This is a pattern for making your wire trigger. It's the release mechanism. And clearly we cut this, our plywood parts in this one particularly well because this is already fallen out, but these are your 1/64 inch plywood parts. And it's okay if things are falling out like that. That just those are just the carrier sheets for everything. Should have a balsa nose cone, our BT5 body tube, some Kevlar binding thread here, nose weight, rubber for making rubber bands, partially formed wire trigger. And then we have a plastic bag. I'll take these parts out and then we'll put them back in here. You don't want to lose these. So, launch lug, the axle for your wing. This is a piece of 3/32 aluminum tubing, which is the wing retainer. Guide for your release trigger, and our plastic wing bearing. Alright, let's get started. We're going to begin by constructing our fuselage. So, pull out a fresh razor blade or number 11 X-Acto knife, whichever is your preferred weapon of choice. And I'll pop this guy out. These fuselages are made from very hard balsa, so you may have to do a little bit of effort to help free it from the carrier sheet. This guy loose. And one thing is you want to take care that this little hook back here does not get damaged. There we go. Come on. Very precise fit there. Okay, so now we have our fuselage. Notice we've got a couple of slots here. Those are going to come in handy, important here in a minute. The first thing, before we go any farther, is we want to take our wire hinge pin. We want to slide it into place. It needs to be as close to being up and down as possible. I'm going to drop some CA glue down in here. Now the centering of it in there is not nearly so critical as just make sure it's up and down. But you do want it as close to the middle as possible. Due to the nature of this, you're just going to use the glue to kind of fill in that space there. And then we'll hit this with some accelerator. Kicker, whatever you want to call it. And now we can move on to the next task. which is we're going to pop our plywood parts out of here. The parts you're looking for are the ones that look like this. This little tab off down here. This right here is supposed to be the slot that matches in the fuselage. On this particular one, kind of burned through the top a little bit. And that's not really particularly critical. Well, the other thing is make sure the little hole right here is cleared out. Easier to do it now than when there's glue in it. Don't throw this piece away, it has a wingtip shield on it. You don't want to lose that wingtip shield or your wings will not unfold correctly. Trust me, I tried. Okay, so with both of these roughly sanded and whatnot, slide them into place on here. Okay. And apply glue to one side. And now we're going to do the same thing on the other side here. Alright, so now you have fully reinforced fuselage. Last thing that we will go ahead and do is we'll go ahead and mount our fuselage. You can take some time to get this mounted perfectly, or you can get it surprisingly close just by eyeballing it. I like to sand a rough spot on it, just gives you a little bit better bonding with your glue. And then glue this guy in place. Once you've got it in there, give it a little bit of a fillet. And that just ensures that any shock loading from the ejection process doesn't kick everything free. Last thing, make sure you're looking on the left side, or left, yeah right, that's the right side of the airplane. So on this side, I'm going to put some glue in here. I'm going to take this guide tube and I'm going to mount it flush with the back of my motor tube. So it's going to look like this. Notice again, it's on the right side of the aircraft. Very critical. If you get this on the left side, it will not work. Okay, we're going to set that aside for a minute. And we're going to come back over here and we're going to pop these two little guys out. these parts right here. Okay. Now that we've got these, have slots on your fuselage. I want to widen these out a little bit. These are going to slide into those slots. There are 2 of them. And if you're like me, you can actually manage to damage them in your own build video. So now we've got the slots widened out. I'm going to glue these in place permanently. And I want to make sure that there is enough space for this trigger assembly to fit in here without any resistance. But you want it to be loose, but not just completely flopping around in there. And again, these are going on the same side as that guide tube, so everything is happening on the right side of the airplane. As you can see, these stick out a little bit on the left side down there. That's okay. The important thing is that they fit up here. And now I will demonstrate how this works. So these slide back here. This trigger assembly slides back here like so. Now, I have included this wire bending gauge here. It shows the basic dimensions for your trigger mechanism. In reality, unless you're trying to replace parts from scratch, that's there to help you if you need to do that. You can do all of this free-handed. So what we're going to do is we're going to take our nose cone here, we're going to sand a little bit of excess off the back of the nose cone. These come to us rough cut from the good folks at Balsa Machining Service, so you'll have to sand the shoulder down a little bit, and then we want to go around here, and we want this nose cone to have a loose fit. Kind of round off the edges here. So we want this thing to slide in and out very easily like so. Last thing is take some CA and rub it in here. The current breed of Estes ejection charges are very vigorous, and they tend to char the shoulders of these nose cones up very significantly. It may be, because we don't know the future, by the time you're watching this, it may be that Estes has everything under control under their new ownership and things are improved, but what you're seeing is the situation as of April or May of 2018. Okay, so what we want to do, once we have a good fit here, we're going to take this wire and about 1/4 inch out, we're going to bend it. We just want to leave enough that we can drive some into the nose cone. What we'll do, you want to do this with it in place, so you want to bend it across here. So I'll grab this and bend it. So we have this arrangement. Now we take our nose cone, push it back in, kind of in the way there is what we want. So with this guy resting loosely back here, not me pushing back on it, but with it at rest, we're going to see where it lies on this nose cone. And then I'm just going to press it into my nose cone here. And use the flat face of the pliers here. That's cheating, I know. And now, I'm going to dab some glue in here. And I'm going to take some Kevlar thread. Being careful not to get glue back on that nose cone shoulder. And just give this a couple of good wraps. Like a couple. No, more like 5. Now, this is a good time to slide this thing free. Cut off our excess and toss it aside. Now you may ask, why am I going to all this trouble to make sure my trigger mechanism is this firmly bound to the nose cone? And the answer is this. You have bought this airplane, there's a good chance you may be wanting to enter it in competition. And the rules state you can't eject any parts. That is why now is also a very good time to go back to this guide tube and just put an additional fillet around it. And be careful not to get that down inside the tube, of course. And you want to regularly check this guide tube to make sure that it's not trying to fall off. Alright, so at this point, wing trigger mechanism is assembled. Let's put tail surfaces on this airplane. Now you can sand these as desired. I'm going to just round off the edges. If you're building this thing for competition, take your time and you get it all just right. So that means taper sanding the thickness all the way out there to the wing tip, to the tips of your flying surfaces and so on. We've built this airplane so that it is much stronger than necessary for surviving good flights. It's designed for rough handling and beginner usage and so on. So if you're an experienced modeler, you can use a very heavy hand with the sanding, and you will not have any loss of structural integrity. Truth is, you'd probably make these tail surfaces from 330 or from 1/32, and they would be just fine. All right, so slip our stab into its slot here. Now, one thing I want you to notice, there is a slot right here on the stab, and that goes on the left side. Like everything else, we're being very critical. It goes on the left side, so we don't flip it over so it's hanging out. I said left side. That's on the left side. That's not what you want. You want it on the right side. So it's going to be on the same side, again, with your trigger mechanism, your guide tube, all of that. So we're going to pop it loose. Run a bead of glue down here. Slide our stab back in place and try to get it perpendicular to the fuselage. It's okay if it's not. Rudder goes on the left side. It's not your rudder, your vertical stab. It goes down here. So you're leaving that slot again open over there. And wow, already some wet glue there. Trying to attach prematurely. And again, just flush with stab and the rear fuselage and so on. So again, rudder on the bottom, just like that. Piece of cake. And then, last part of our fuselage is this little guy. And kind of an intricate part doesn't want to come out of here so easily. There we go. And we'll clean all the flashing that's left in here. And so this guy slides through your slot. And the way that it is set up is it's going to be flush down here. Now, I would actually recommend, our current findings are it should angle up a little bit like that. So what you're seeing, what I'm showing you is this angle right here. Basically, draw a line from the fuselage back here, and this should be a little up from that. Now I'm going to just tip this out and wick some glue in from underneath, and pull it back. A little bit of glue there, and a little up here. Nothing too special. Alright, fuselage is almost done. There is one last thing to put on it. Sand off up top. And sand our launch lug. And we'll glue it in place. And there we go. So launch lug sits square on top of the fuselage, and there we go. Alright, so now we're going to start in on our wings. So we have right wing, we have left wing. So if the lettering is correct, you're on the top. If it's reversed, you're on the bottom. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take this wing, and I'm going to take a razor plane, need to adjust it slightly. I'm going to taper the thickness of this down a little bit. We can spend some time getting a nice accurate airfoil if you like. Main thing is I want to get this wing thinned out a little bit so it's a little bit flexible. And then I'm going to sand everything down here. And then I can come back. Only do your sanding outboard of these marks on the wing. Reason being, you're about to, actually, no, don't. You can, but it'll get you quite confused on some things, and it's unnecessary. Alright, so once you have done that on the right wing, I come in here and just use our razor blade to crease into this wing a little bit. And we're going to crack it up. Then I'll go back over here to my tail surfaces sheet and break out my dihedral gauge. Yeah, so much for cracking it loose. It's completely loose now. Slide in our dihedral gauge, and we'll give this plenty of glue here. And there we go. Let go of it. Alright, sand off any flashing on the bottom. And then we have our right wing piece here. And what you want to do is line this guy up so that the edges all match all the way around here. So this component, looking from the top of your wing, goes across like that, and it lines up on that center hole. It's very important. It mounts to the bottom of this wing, so very important. It does not go on the top. Alright, we'll set that aside for a minute. Now we're going to build up our left wing. You'll notice the dotted lines are in a different place on the left wing. The reason for that is we're using those offset dihedral brakes, and the purpose of that is to allow our wings to clear each other as they fold right over the top of each other. Again, I'm looking for my letter L to not be reversed. So this is the top of my wing. The other way is to verify like so. I'm going to go to the top of my wing and I'm going to plane it down just like I did before. Alright, so we finished sanding out our left wing. It's nice and floppy as it should be. And now I'm going to... Okay, so we've got our left wing wingtip reinforcement. Sand off a little bit of the flashing here, not super critical. And we have two little alignment marks that this guy lines up with. That goes on the top surface of the wing. So again, left wing. Yeah. And now, we'll do the same thing we did before, is we're going to set our dihedral on our left wing. And we'll glue it. And use a little bit of an accelerator to get it all happy like. And there we go. So now we're at this stage. Let's go ahead and put the left wing reinforcement plate. Again, goes on the bottom of the wing. And this time is really easy because the bottom of it lines up with your dihedral brake. And then we're going to take our little bearing here and a little bit of glue in. That's not the right order to do that. What you should do is do this. Stick it in there and then glue it. And if you just press it in there nice and solid, it'll come out reasonably straight. And we have some tolerancing built into this model so that it's not an issue. Get that with an accelerator so you can safely put the two together without them bonding to each other. Now, those rotate freely. Let's stick this assembly on our rocket, and everything rotates freely. Okay, now that these are moving as they should, give this a quick check. And it does line up back here. Everything looks good. And those will come out like so. So now we're going to take our little retainer loop, take a pair of pliers and crimp it in place, and then we're going to slide it down as far as we can, grab the wire right over the top of that, and bend it over. In which direction you bend it over is not that critical. So what we've done is we've got that piece captive now. So our wings cannot, when they're forward, they can't move around. Alright, now we need to make a rubber band. Now, the length of this rubber band is kind of up to your decision making. What I'm going to do is I'm going to start by making my rubber band from my L up to the little hole in the fuselage. So I'm going to mark that off. Now I've got twice that much because I've folded it back on itself. The thing is, you're going to have to tune your rubber band to get things, get the right amount of tension to make sure the wings unfold reliably. And I've got a little bit of crud in my alignment hole here. Now, I'm actually going to pull the knot forward a little bit on this guy. That way I can slide it through and grab it through the other side and pull it in. And now what I'm doing is I'm just pulling this rubber band over those hooks. So now my wings are holding. What I'm going to do is I'm going to slide my wing back. Now it's a little tougher to hold everything in place. Pull that rubber band around there and slide the trigger back in there. Now our wings are under tension and everything. But when I pull the nose cone forward, it latches out. So, let me show you that one more time. Hold my wings back. I'm going to get them under their little hold down. Once I get my nose cone and shoulder in there, I'm going to guide everything back, and now it's locked. When my ejection charge fires, pulls my nose cone forward, everything unlatches. Now, let me go get a spent engine casing and we'll explain the balance on this. Okay, now we need to balance this airplane. Now this is the one that we've been flying and it flies well. I want to get you a measurement for the CG on it. That's relatively close. So this one balances 1/8 of an inch forward of the little wing locking pin blade. Now that's with a spent engine casing in there. If you do not have a spent 13mm Estes engine casing, you'll have to balance without. So I'm going to give you an estimated CG without the casing in there you can trim for. And that is 7/8 of an inch forward of the wing trailing edge. So let me show you that again. We're measuring from the wing trailing edge. Your center of gravity without an engine casing in should be about 7/8 of an inch forward of there. So let's see. Lack of. I've got a reference point I can go with. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and balance this guy for that. And it comes out a little nose heavy of that. So I'm going to take my clay here. I'm going to add some clay. We had to add clay on the prototype as well. So maybe a little bit much. Oh, still nose heavy. Oh, that clay's not sticking over there. We'll stick it all together then. And there we are. Okay, so In theory, that means I can take an engine casing here. We don't want to do our glide testing with a full engine. The reason for that is that's not what the aircraft's going to see in glide. And there's a significant amount of propellant that these carry. So, my videographer will disengage the camera here. Go ahead and take it loose of the tripod. You need to do that for this. Alright, we're going to give this a quick test glide. Okay, that was a kind of hard landing, but it flew correctly. So let me, I'm going to do this one more time just so you can see how this glides. Sliding those come back out here. Alright. Alright. So besides beating it up, the thing that you want to carry away from this is that CG works well. So that was 1/8 inch forward of the of those locking blades on the wing. And once again, I'm going to show you. Let's slide our wings together, like so. Guide this pin or trigger into place. Everything's locked. Ejection charge fires. Out it comes, and off you go. Follow our glider video on trimming as far as shims to your tail surfaces for adjusting for diving, stalling, etc. Keep an eye out that your wings don't warp. As you can see, we added some color to this. Just give it a misting of the paint so you can see the wood grain shows through a little bit, and that's what you want to see. You don't want to go any heavier than that or you start to impact the performance of the airplane. So, refer to our Aletta video for prepping typical gliders for launching. There should be no surprises on that. All you have to do is make sure you have enough tape to retain this engine casing so that it doesn't kick out. And anything further, ask questions down in our comments section or look in the description, and you'll have a link to our website. You can ask me any questions you want to about this aircraft or any of our other products, and there will, if this is completely new to you, look down there and there's a link for where you can buy one of these. Hope you've enjoyed it. Again, if you build one of these, please let us know how it flies for you. Have a nice day.